Hello, and welcome back to Attack on Titan enthusiasts. Have you ever noticed that there are some characters who seem to have been killed off on purpose because they were too powerful and would ruin the pace of the story? There were even some characters who died soon after their appearances, despite their strength. In this video, we rank 7 characters who are unfortunate enough to fall into this category, based on surveys and comments I've seen on the internet. If you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe so you can get notifications whenever we release a new one? Please be aware, this video contains spoilers, possibly up to the final chapter of the manga. With that said, let's get started. Number 7. Erwin. Erwin is the 13th commander of the Scouts, and was a very active and overwhelmingly intelligent character. Looking back through the story of Attack on Titan, Erwin came up with a number of genius strategies. His most famous is probably the strategy that lured out the female Titan in the 57th expedition outside the walls. Erwin had been thinking of that strategy ever since Sunny and Bean were killed, 2 Titans they captured during the defense of the Tross district. When that happened, Erwin leaned into Eren and asked him who he thought the enemy was. Later on, we learned that only those who could answer this question would be told the real strategy for the 57th expedition. Also, when he was recruiting people to join the Scouts, he told all the potential recruits about Eren's basement, but at the same time made sure everyone knew how cruel and brutal life was outside the walls. He did this to narrow down who the potential spies could be. This probably made it a lot easier for Armin to figure out the identity of the female Titan, and that she was working with Reiner, because she appeared at the rear of the right wing of their formation. And this is where Eren should have been, according to the mission statement Reiner received. However, they underestimated the power of the female Titan, and were unable to capture it. Still, this strategy definitely showed off Erwin's amazing ability to lead. Unfortunately, Erwin died in the operation to retake Wall Maria. He'd been fatally wounded by the stones the Beast Titan was throwing at them, and was about to die when the decision had to be made to save either him or Armin. The spinal fluid was injected into Armin, and Erwin died. He had sacrificed so much to get to the basement, but unfortunately, his journey ended with his death right in front of him. A lot of fans wonder what would have happened if Erwin had lived instead of Armin. But considering that Erwin didn't seem to know what he'd do after seeing the basement, I don't know if he would have continued to fight for humanity after the Marley arc, or if he would have tried to stop Eren from destroying the world to save humanity. Maybe he would have retired after proving his father's hypothesis. Or, possibly worst case scenario, he would have been part of the Jaegerists, and the people trying to stop Eren would have had to fight him too, if Erwin had been leading the Jaegerists instead of Floch. I highly doubt they would have been able to even leave Paradis Island to attempt to stop Eren. But overall, it would have been possible for the story to still continue down the same path. So that's why he's ranked in 7th place. Number 6. Marcel. Marcel was an Eldian born in Marley and raised as a warrior candidate. He was a reliable character and had excellent scores, which led to him inheriting the Jaw Titan. Marcel and his team attempted to break into the wall in order to steal the founding Titan. But he was taken completely by surprise when a Titan appeared out of the ground and tried to eat Reiner. Thanks to the plot armor Isayama sensei has given Reiner, he's pushed out of the way by Marcel just in time, and Marcel gets eaten instead. Because of this, Marcel dies and Ymir inherits the Jaw Titan. Just think if Marcel had lived, there would have been 4 spies. They would have been a much greater threat, especially because Marcel was the leader of the group. So, unlike Reiner, he would have led them well. There is a possibility that the kind-hearted Marcel would have sympathized with the people inside the walls. So maybe it wouldn't have been a victory for the spies. But if Marcel had lived, they probably would have captured Eren. The fact that Ymir's Titan was right under Marcel and the others was just too much of a coincidence. So maybe Marcel was taken out by the future Eren, because he would have died if Marcel made it into the walls. Number 5. Kenny. Kenny is a member of the Ackerman clan, same as Levi, who's said to be the strongest man alive, and was Levi's guardian as a child. Kenny appears as Levi's enemy in the Monarchy arc, in order to kidnap Eren and Historia, and even Levi recognized Kenny's strength, saying to treat Kenny as if they were fighting another version of him. He was also using anti-personnel 3D maneuver gear, a special type of 3D maneuver gear designed to kill people. So, with that on, he was probably even more dangerous than Levi to other humans. Levi manages to beat him in a fight, and in the end, he dies not only from blood loss, but also from the severe burns he suffered when Rod Rice turned into a Titan. Before he died, he made peace with Levi and told him that they were related. If he only would have done this before he was dying, he could have lived and even joined the Scouts later. If he had joined the Scouts, he probably would have learned to use a sword as quick as Levi and became a soldier even stronger than Mike, if not as strong as Levi. After the Monarchy arc was the operation to retake Walmaria. Imagine if Kenny had been there. I think the results would have been a lot different, even if they still end up doing that final suicide charge. If Levi and Kenny had ambushed the Beast Titan from both sides, there's no way the Cart Titan would have been able to save him. I think because the Ackerman clan was so powerful, Kenny was likely seen as too strong to be an ally in the next arc, and that's why he had to die. This is why he's ranked this highly. Number 4. Marco. Marco was a classmate of the main character, Eren, and was so strong that he graduated from training in 7th place. In his very first battle, right after graduating, he showed his will to survive in the face of despair, and everybody probably thought he was going to be one of the main characters, like Jean, but he died without anyone noticing in the battle to defend the Trost district. This came as a shock to many readers, but later, the details around his death were revealed. Marco happened to overhear a conversation between the spies, Reiner and Bertolt. Then he was attacked by Reiner and Annie, who took his 3D maneuver gear and left him to be eaten by the Titans. His last words might have been what finally broke Reiner, but this was how Marco, who had graduated 7th in his class and had valuable information, was taken out. A lot of fans wondered how the story would have changed if Marco had survived. Number 3. Bertolt. Bertolt was perhaps the most powerful human among all the Titan shifters. But Keith Shadis did point out that he lacked initiative despite his potential. However, don't forget he was holding back because he didn't want to blow his cover, and still managed to graduate 3rd in his class. Bertolt showed his true strength during the operation to recapture Walmaria, where he didn't fall for Armin's provocation, and in a short fight, even managed to knock back Mikasa Ackerman, even though he still lost an ear doing so. On top of that, he was the heir to one of the most powerful Titans, the Colossal Titan, which could even kill Levi if he manages to transform close enough to him to catch him in the explosion. The only way to kill Bertolt would be to ambush him before he can turn into a Titan, or to kill him immediately after he comes out of his Titan. Just imagine if Bertolt would have survived until the Marley arc. He would have been even stronger as a young adult in his prime. I'm sure that nobody but the Ackermans would have been able to keep up with him in human form. This is why he had to die in the story, while he was still in his mid-teens. Number 2. Levi's squad. Yeah, this is multiple people, but since they all died together, let's just put them all in the same place. This was the group of elite soldiers chosen by Levi, the strongest soldier known to man. In the 57th expedition outside the walls, they battled with the female Titan, managed to damage its eyes, temporarily incapacitating it, and knowing that they had 1 minute until a Titan's eyes would grow back naturally, they launched a full-out assault. However, this was information they'd gathered from pure Titans, and this was the first intelligent Titan they'd ever faced. So, simply because they lacked the necessary information, the female Titan manages to kill them all in a counterattack. Still, they greatly weakened the female Titan, and they definitely would have won against any normal Titan. I think that if the Levi squad would have lived through their fight with the female Titan, the story would have been very different, especially since the Thunder Spears came out in the final operation to recapture Wall Maria. If the Levi squad would have had access to Thunder Spears, there's no way they would have lost against the female Titan. Number 1. Mike. Mike was said to be the second most powerful fighter in the Scouts. Not only was he very skilled in the use of his 3D maneuver gear, but he also had an amazing sense of smell. He had a habit of sniffing new acquaintances, and his sense of smell was also a weapon that allowed him to detect the direction and number of Titans coming before anyone else could. He used this ability to guess the direction and number of Titans that appeared in the southern section of Wall Rose. Thanks to this amazing sense of smell, Mike was said to be even more useful than Levi, the strongest man alive. But his sense of smell didn't help him when he met the Beast Titan, and that's how he died. If Mike would have lived, he would have been able to avoid Kenny's surprise attack. He would have noticed the Cart Titan when it tried to sneak up and save Zeke or Reiner, whichever side of the wall he was on. He even might have been able to notice Zeke's spinal fluid in the wine. It really seems like victory would have just come too easily if Mike wouldn't have died. So, this is why he succeeded in taking the number 1 spot on this list. Alright, that's all we have for the characters who were killed. Because they were so strong, the story wouldn't have progressed the same way. I'd love to hear what characters you think were killed off because they were too strong or too useful in some other way. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you again in the next video.